CL 650 presents your source for leading-edge news and information on today's hottest products and services. This is Experts on Call.
Stop, look and listen, baby, that's my philosophy.
And welcome to Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and today we're talking about insurance. Joining us in the studio, we have two guests today from Intact Insurance. We welcome Patrick Magnuson and Keith Story, along with Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance. Now, like we do in most of our shows, I'll just get you guys to tell us a little bit about yourselves. So, Patrick, can we start with you?
Sure. Thanks, Joanne. My name is Patrick Magnuson. I am a personal lines director with Intact Insurance. Basically, my role is to help develop the products and that we sell to our customers, mostly on the personal line side, so things like your home and your toys and your condos and tenants and all that fun stuff.
Excellent. Thank you. And Keith Story, it's your first time with us today. Tell us a little bit about what you do with Intact.
Right. My name again is Keith Story. I'm a claims consultant with Intact. I've been there for going on my 14th year. I get involved in sort of the larger, more complex property losses and work through those.
Excellent. Andrew, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I've been a broker for 35 years. I've owned my own brokerage, lived in Richmond for 25, a family-run business. My wife and two sons work with us, with my staff of 13. We're one of the true independents that are left out there and haven't been gobbled up by the big conglomerates.
Yeah, not many of you.
No, not left. So if you stop by, you can count on getting personalized service by the same people year after year. So you don't have to worry about, have different faces every time you show up.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us today. Now, Intact Insurance knows that you want to get back to your normal life, and they can actually help you do that should the unforeseen happen. We desire to show you that insurance claims are not a bad thing and that people at Intact are actually here to help listeners understand insurance and the entire claims process, and thus the panel we've put together for you today. We want to cover some of the basics, so let's just start with the most obvious question about what is insurance and why is it so important. Patrick, do you want to lead?
Sure. Well, insurance in general is it's there to protect your assets from sudden and accidental loss or damage. I mean, that's the textbook term, but what does it really mean? And when you put a face to that, is you have a home, which it's likely the biggest asset that you have, and if something happens to it, it could be financially devastating. It could be very difficult for you to recover from that. So insurance is there to protect you. In the event that a loss happens, we're there to put you back into the same place that you were before. So whether it's rebuild your home or repair your home or replace those contents or items that you have lost or damaged. So that's what we do, and that's what we're there for.
And Andrew, as a broker?
Well, I think people need to understand that too often people ignore the value of insurance. I always talk about especially we see it at Christmas time where the number of people where there's a fire and there's all these people standing on the curb and they're watching their apartment building and they're all saying, oh, they've got no insurance and can people donate, and we're donate your used items for these people. I mean, for price of a case of beer, you can get a basic package for some sort of insurance. So why not spend the money and be properly protected. Don't be those ones standing on the curb.
Exactly. With your head in the sand. As a claims consultant, Keith, what can you add to that conversation about why insurance is so important?
I see it every day. We experience claims every day. That's what we do. I can't imagine the financial implications of not having insurance with some of these losses that people would have to bear. It would be devastating.
And when you're dealing with your clients, do you get the perspective sometimes that the most of us walk around and live our everyday lives thinking, I don't need insurance. It's not going to happen to me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that happens. And I think there's a general misconception about insurance that it's about your TV and it's your couch. And let's be honest, that's almost the least important part of it. You have the stuff that's really going to devastate you or put on an unbearable burden of financial difficulties is things like your house or other things that you're not going to expect, like liability claims. But if you're skiing up in Whistler and you happen to run into somebody and break their arm and they sue you for $1 million, that's the kind of thing that the average person isn't able to handle on their own. Not only the $1 million part, but the whole stress of the legal implications of that, having to defend yourself and all that, and that's what insurance also covers.
It changes lives. It ruins lives
Absolutely.
when you're not prepared.
Exactly. And of course, when you start talking about if you're in a condominium, I mean, you're in a tight little community where your actions and the actions of your neighbors really have a lot of implications on your daily life. So if you have a house and you accidentally leave the hose running, well, you got a bit of a wet lawn. You leave a hose running or a bathtub running in a condo, well, you got wet neighbors.
And you've got angry wet neighbors.
That's right. So, yeah, so all that has a much bigger implication. So there's a lot more things to think about. Insurance is not just your TV and your couch. It's such a broader picture than that. I think that's what's really important to know.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought up the fact about living in condominiums, because we're going to zero in on that topic today, talking about some of our most valuable assets, include our family members, our home, but more specifically, we're going to talk about a condo or an apartment today and insurance implications with that. Because many of our listeners actually live in condominiums. Some of them may rent them as investment properties. And let's talk about insurance for condo owners. What kind of statistics do we have on the number or percentage of people that are actually living in condos in the Lower Mainland or in BC, or how does that work?
The last stats I was able to find was there was a census done in 2011. There's approximately 29,000 units that house 900,000 people in Vancouver, Lower Mainland, and 1.7 million people in BC total. So
Wow, so that's 4 years ago. So those numbers
those are even bigger now.
they're more than a million, we can probably estimate.
Well, if Richmond's any indication of the number of towers that are going up, it's significantly higher.
Yeah, and not just Richmond, it's like New West, downtown. It's like the construction has gone a little bit crazy in this Lower Mainland area. So when we're talking about condominiums and owning them, we always hear about a strata. What is the actual strata? What is a strata? What does a strata mean?
The strata is the corporation of a group of owners with a board of directors that manage the affairs of the building. They implement bylaws. They make sure that the residents are following the bylaws. Individual unit owners own the lot that they have acquired in the overall complex.
I'd say strata and condo are almost interchangeable. So it's in some provinces they're referred to as condo. In Alberta we have the Condominium Act. In BC we have the Strata Act. They essentially do the same thing with some minor provincial variations, but in BC we just choose to call them stratas for some reason. I guess I don't know the history behind that, but for some reason we decided to call them stratas and not condos.
So, and actually, Keith, you have experience being on a strata, don't you?
That's right, yes.
Is that in the recent past, or?
More than 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things might have changed a little bit, but you come with some good knowledge in that area. So when we're insuring our condominium and we're talking about personal property, in that category, what does this include?
Everything you own, everything that isn't nailed down to the wall, essentially, it's covered. So your personal contents, your electronics, your sports equipment, everything you own, your wine selection.
Even your washer and your dryer?
Anything that isn't permanently attached is considered content.
And when you start thinking about contents, it's easy to underestimate the amount of contents you have. I mean, certainly if you think about, well, how much would it cost you to replace all of your clothes? How much would it cost to replace all of your socks? I mean, these numbers add up. What about all the spices in your kitchen?
In your kitchen.
Yeah, all the
your pots and pans, your.
Absolutely, it goes down to everything. So again, it's not just big ticket items. It is quite literally everything that you own.
So, are there any limits when it comes to personal property?
Well, when it comes to condominiums, that is what you do. Is you choose the limit of coverage that you want to buy. I would say a lot of people just off the top of their heads, if they were to throw out a number, I'd guess it would be probably too low.
50. Yeah, a lot of people say 50,000 lots, but it amazes me because we talk to clients on a daily basis, and they say, "Oh, well, I got my big screen TV, and I've got my dining room suite, and things like that." But they don't think about, especially talking to fellows, I mean, they have no idea what their wardrobe's worth, or even a clue what their wife's wardrobe's worth. So,
sure.
Or
even the contents of the kitchen, all your small appliances.
Well, I always say, kitchen, you're looking at $15,000 to $20,000, and people don't
just for the kitchen.
Just for the kitchen, when you start adding up all the little appliances and things you've got in there. So, but here's one: a linen closet. Yeah. You know what, a linen closet can cost you $2,000 to $5,000 to when you've got
towels.
Yeah, depending on the quality of the sheets and your quilts and things like that.
Wow. What about jewelry? Where does jewelry fit into this personal property?
Well, jewelry is personal property.
Okay.
Most policies will contain what they would call a special limit. So special limit is basically a cap on the amount that you'd be able to claim for something like jewelry. With Intact, that limit is $10,000. So if you have jewelry that's valued more than that, or if you have a collection of jewelry that's valued
Like
more
a
than that.
family heirloom or a
Sure.
really extravagant wedding ring, or
Yeah, well, one ring, it's easy to pick out one item, but if you have 6 rings and they're all worth $2,000, well, now you have $12,000 worth of jewelry, and you only have a $10,000 limit. But you can schedule those items. So basically, that creates almost its own little insurance policy within your insurance policy. It would have a separate deductible, which is lower than your policy's deductible, and basically provides you full coverage for that specific item.
Every policy has sublimits, and there's a variety of things: boats, silverware, coin collections, furs,
Bicycles.
bicycles,
bicycles,
lot of
Business
coin-
tools.
Yeah,
lot of-
business tools. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of companies, but, and especially in Vancouver here, people tend to have a lot of bikes, and they tend to go with higher end ones. They need to make sure they talk to their broker to find out what limit, because a lot of them are at $500 or even $1,000. So if you got yourself a $5,000 bike, you get stolen, you'd be quite sad when you phone up and find out you're only getting $1,000.
Bicycles, walkers, scooters.
Yep.
Anything that you have within your building, like your apartment building, your condo.
Or your storage facility.
Okay.
Yeah, walkers and scooters wouldn't have a limit, but it's different.
Okay.
Again, it's good to know what's within your policy, and that's where your broker is really going to add a lot of value. And that's why it's important to be open and honest and disclose what you have to your broker.
So in the case of the unforeseen, how is replacement value determined for all of your personal property?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So once we have a list and we understand what the items are, we will tender for bids. We will go to replacement stores, replacement vendors, and request estimates for them. For jewelry, we'll go to a jeweler with the details of what that item is, the carat weight of the stone, the color, the clarity, the weight of the gold itself, and then the jewelers will provide us with an estimate. And if it's a 55-inch XYZ TV, then go to the electronics store and say, what's a 55 XYZ TV worth today?
Sounds like a lot of work.
I think the important part, though, is we're talking about replacement value. I mean, even though that TV is 5-6 years old, we're not going to go out to a used store, secondhand store, and buy you a 5 or 6 year old TV.
Or not pick up the cheapest one, that's
right.
on sale at one of the local
That's right.
outlets.
You're getting like, kind, and quality. And although that's certainly an insurance term, but what that means is basically the new model of the same item.
It's the current equivalent.
The current equivalent. Patrick and Keith, thanks for those additions. You are listening to Experts on Call on CL 650. I'm Joanne Sutton, and joining us in the studio today are the insurance experts, Patrick Magnuson and Keith Story from Intact Insurance, along with Andrew Tablotny of Laguerre Pelling Insurance. If you want more information, please visit the website intact.ca. We're going to be right back to carry on this conversation about insurance and why you, as a condo owner, need it. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.